If you're a salon or spa owner working nonstop, barely paying yourself, and terrified to step away because it might all fall apart, you're not alone. Most salon and spa owners were never taught the business side of this industry, and that makes it feel impossible to get ahead. Welcome to the station, where we give you the structure, systems, and strategies to step into the CEO seat and lead like the legend you are. Hey friends, welcome back to the station. This is the podcast for salon and spa owners who are ready to cut through the chaos, step fully into leadership, and actually build a business that gives you back your life. I'm Bree, founder of the Beauty Biz Agency, and as always, I have my amazing co-founder, co-host, and bestie here with me today. Hey Chandra, how are you?
Hi, doing good today. Ready for our episode.
Awesome. I have actually really been looking forward to this conversation. Today, we are diving into something that can completely shift the way that you lead, the way that you handle conflict, and honestly, the way that you move through life outside of work. And that, my friends, is learning to lead through the lens of positive intent. Now, I want to clear something up right away from the beginning. Leading with positive intent, it doesn't mean that your team is never wrong. It doesn't mean that your clients get to walk all over your policies or break boundaries without consequences. Accountability still matters. What this is really about is the lens that you choose to lead through. Because here's something that Chandra and I see all the time. We see owners who think that they're leading with empathy, but without even realizing it, they're actually leading from the opposite of positive intent. Instead of assuming the best, they start assuming the worst. They tell themselves that their team just doesn't care, their clients are taking advantage of them, or that everyone's just out to get them or drain them. And that mindset doesn't create empathy. It creates resentment. And resentment, that is one of the fastest ways to burn yourself out. Trust me, been there, done that. Lose trust in your people and completely wreck the culture that you have been working so hard to build in your studio. That's why today we are going to break down what it really means to lead through that lens of positive intent and how that one shift can change absolutely everything. Chandra, what happens to an owner's stress level when they stop assuming that everybody is out to get them and they start seeing through the lens of positive intent?
Your stress level will drop drastically. It's such a different way of feeling as you're walking through your day and dealing with your team and your business and literally anything. Like you don't see it in a stressful way anymore, which automatically I think lowers that stress.
Yeah, I know for me, it lowered mine drastically. Like everybody around me could tell a difference, not just myself, but everybody around me. So let's kind of talk about what positive intent really means, what it actually means, because a lot of owners, they hear that phrase and they nod along and they think they know, but they don't always slow down enough to think about how it shows up in their day-to-day leadership. I was one of these salon owners. I went to a conference years ago, business ownership conference, and this was a topic of conversation. And I remember there, I was sitting, I was like nodding, and I was like, oh yeah, I do this. I lead through this, and in that conference, they didn't actually say what it meant. So I just kind of went on about my life thinking that this is how I lived. Come to find out when I did my own research, yeah, no, not even close to what I was doing, the exact opposite, to be honest. So at its core, positive intent is about just really stopping yourself from running with the very first story that your brain writes the second that something goes wrong. And like I just told you guys, I used to believe those stories, and those stories came quick for me. Within a millisecond. Let's just say a stylist skips a step in a system, and before you even take a breath, your brain is saying something like, she doesn't care. She's lazy. She's disrespecting me. Or maybe a client pushes back on one of your policies, and instantly it's like, they're trying to take advantage of me. That's just what everybody does. Or maybe one of your team leads forgets to send an email to a client, and your first thought is, They don't value me or my time. Now I have to go do this, right? Guys, most of the time, those stories that you're telling yourself, they're not true. They're just not. Here's the thing though, once you decide that they are, you start acting like they are facts. And that is where things start to get really, really messy. Because if you walk into a coaching conversation already convinced that this employee doesn't care, you're defensive before you've even said a word. If you respond to a client while assuming that they're trying to play you some way, somehow, your tone shifts whether you mean for it to or not, or your facial expressions change, right? And if you've already decided your team doesn't respect you, then every little thing that they do feels like proof in your head. It's going to be like a spotlight is put on it, and you can't let anything go. That is how resentment starts building. And resentment doesn't just make leadership harder, it makes it heavier. Salon ownership is heavy enough. Let's be honest, it is heavy enough. It piles on stress that you don't need. It erodes trust with your team, and it slowly chips away at that culture. It does that. Chandra, when owners finally start leading with a kind of curiosity, how does it change the way their team shows up in maybe like a coaching conversation or a one-on-one conversation?
I think the team shows up in a way where they feel safe and they feel comfortable to talk to you, and they feel like you're hearing them in a way, instead of it just being like talking at them, or I just think that they take what you're saying or what you're doing or how you're helping, or when you're coaching and doing that, in a different way, instead of them taking it like it's like you can kind of combat each other, right? Like when you come in with already that negative attitude, they're going to come in with a negative attitude, and then I feel like nothing constructive happens, right? So when you have more of that openness and more of that coming from that more constructive way, they're more open to do the same thing, instead of it just being kind of a pointless meeting where then you leave mad, because that's usually how those go if you're not in that right mindset.
Right. Positive intent is really about slowing down, and you have to ask yourself some very, very specific questions. One of them is, what else could be true here? You have to ask that before you react. So instead of that, they don't care, you have to pause and say, are they overwhelmed? Instead of they're being disrespectful, you ask, could this maybe be my fault? Could it be a training issue somewhere, somehow, right? Instead of they're pushing back on purpose, maybe ask yourself, is this fear that may be showing up as resistance? So you have to get really, really deep about what you think about when you're doing this. But when you learn to look at it from that lens, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And when you start leading from that place, accountability doesn't get weaker. This is what so many people think. Even when we were coaching some of our members through this, they automatically think, well, that makes me a pushover. That is not what it's about. Accountability will actually get stronger because you're no longer reacting to the story that you're telling yourself in your own head, and you're addressing the real problem that's right in front of you. And when you do that, your team can actually hear you. They can. Like Chandra said, they're not immediately defensive, right? And they're not bracing themselves for an attack that they probably often get that you don't even realize. They feel like you are for them, not against them, which means they're actually going to respond to everything that you say and do instead of fighting you on it constantly. I'm going to get you in here, Chandra, but here's the part I don't want anybody to miss out on. This isn't just about your team or your clients. It is also about you. How many times have you made a mistake in your life and then immediately told yourself, I suck at this. I'm failing. I'm not cut out for this. I'm just a terrible leader. Guys, you can't do that. You would never look at your best stylist or your business partner after one misstep and say that to him or her. You wouldn't do that, but yet you say it to yourself all the time. It's so important to understand that positive intent also means extending grace inward, telling yourself, hey, I wasn't trying to sabotage myself. I was doing the best I could with what I knew at the time. Now I know better, so I'm going to do better. Chandra, when an owner finally gives themselves maybe that same type of grace that they learn to start giving to everyone else, what shifts in the way that they lead, not only day to day, but the way that they live?
I think they actually start accomplishing things. They start accomplishing goals. They start reaching things that they're trying to do, or how they want to grow their culture, or how they want to grow their business, because they start to realize it's not, it is about you, but it's also not about you. Like it's about all these other people around you, or it's about what you're trying to grow or trying to build. And so when you start taking your negativity out of the equation, I think things start to fall into place. They start to get easier. They start to just take off the way that you've been trying for all this time, but you've been holding it back by constantly being that way, or constantly coming at things in that way. So I think that's the biggest mindset shift. And I think all of our members that have gone through this process, it's crazy to see how differently they start to lead, and how things actually start to fall into place for them once they stop leading from that kind of that fear and that negative mindset.
Yeah, and I don't know, this is going to sound so bad. Salon owners struggle so much. When you look at statistics, very few are profitable. And we talk about this a lot. And I think that makes all of us feel like failures. So many of us are still having to provide services because we haven't built the type of team or business that we need in order to maintain the business or the lifestyle that we want to live. And I think that makes us feel like failures. And I have noticed in different businesses, I don't ever see other business owners just get down on themselves the way that a lot of the salon owners that we coach do. That breaks my heart. I think part of it is a lot of us are women. We're emotional. I understand that. Do not shoot the messenger, but yes, women are emotional. But it's just really, really sad. Have you noticed that as we've coached, salon owners through this?
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think a lot of it has to do with, we usually got into the industry because we love doing hair, we love making people feel good, and we love making people happy. We didn't always realize what it takes to run a business, or what it takes to be an owner. We're not taught those things. We're not trained in that way. And so I think once we think we know, or we try it, we get very deflated easily and frustrated, because it's not what we thought it was going to be like. And I think that's where a lot of people in this industry, a lot of owners get stuck.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a lot of hard work. It really is. Now, if you have a roadmap and a proven system to follow, it's a heck of a lot easier. But when you are trying to figure that out on your own and you're not willing to invest in yourself and do the things that you need to do, it's kind of like a bottomless pit that you can't get out of. It really is. It's difficult. Okay, so for those of you out there that want to start leading this way, how do you do it? Let's kind of break it down in real life really quickly. The first thing is to just stop noticing that story that your brain is telling you right away. Just stop. You can't do that. That's your red flag. The moment you hear yourself saying something in your head is telling you something negative, right? They're lazy, they don't care, blah, 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 blah. Pause and do not let that take root, because if you let it have just an inch of root, you're in trouble. So instead of running with that story first, ask yourself the questions that we said earlier. What else could be true? I'm not saying that you have to be fake positive. You don't have to try to swing it into this best case scenario, right? But just give yourself one other possible explanation that it could be. Maybe it was overwhelm, maybe it was miscommunication, maybe they never got trained, whatever it is. You have to do that. It's going to slow your reaction, and that's why you do that. It slows it long enough for you to choose how you actually want to respond. Another big thing is looking at whether or not it is a one-off or it is a pattern. This is really important. One mistake, it doesn't need this whole dramatic intervention, right? But if you see it happening over and over and over again, that's when you have to step in and start coaching it in the right way. So many owners, they either blow up over one-time slip-ups, or they just completely ignore it until it's this huge wildfire that they can never get under control again. The power is in paying attention early without overreacting. Chandra, why do salon owners go from one extreme to the other.
I think it's also just that lack of structure. Like it comes back to that all the time because they're not following any kind of structure themselves. So they just get like crazy mad when something happens and that makes them blow up. And then they get tired of stressed of dealing with these things all the time. So they let it go until like you said, it's a big wildfire. Then all of a sudden they're crazy mad again. It's like, it's this vicious cycle because even they're not working off of any sort of structure. And so it's just like, mad this, you didn't do this. And then you're lazy and tired and you don't feel like dealing with it. And everybody gets away with it for a year. And then all of a sudden you get mad about it again. It's just, I see that all the time in this industry. And I think that's a big reason why it's that constant swing, like back and forth.
Well, and so many salon owners don't want to be the bad guy. And unfortunately, when you are a business owner, sometimes you have to be the bad guy, but you can be the bad guy in a good way, right? That's one of the simple shifts that you can make. Start leading with curiosity instead of just coming in so hot. A lot of times we don't even realize how hot we're coming in. We say things like, "Why did you do that?" Even if we say it in a soft tone, that is going to put people in defense mode immediately. You got to say things like, "Walk me through what happened here. Explain it. I'm curious," right? That changes everything. That doesn't let them off the hook. It creates space for them to be honest and open with you. And I'm going to tell you what, you are going to get so much more information when you start doing things that way. When people feel like they can actually tell you the truth without you going crazy, you can fix the real issue instead of fighting surface battles. And Chandra and I have coached so many owners. We see y'all fighting these surface battles all the time. And that is why revenue staying stuck, profitability staying stuck. You are staying stuck behind the chair because that's what you're focused on. One more thing that I'm going to tell you guys, and this is huge, is to actually say the positive intent out loud. Like when you're going through these things, literally put it into words. I don't think this came from a lack of care, but we've got to get it fixed, right? Or I know you weren't trying to cause a problem, but here's the impact that it had. So moving forward, let's work on this together. Things like that will change everything because it tells your team, hey, I see you. I believe the best about you, but I'm still going to hold you to a standard. I'm still going to hold you to a standard. Chandra, tell me an example of how you handle that in your studio.
I mean, I always come in with like that openness. So when I have to coach a team member, we just actually had something happen a couple weeks ago where we had somebody that we have a very specific service cycle and they're struggling with it. They're not doing it. It's a newer team member. And so, I just sat her down and I literally just asked her, "Hey, I know we've been through this a few times and I see, this still isn't happening the way that it needs to be. So what can we do to make this better? Like, how can I help you make it better? Or is there a way we can change the way we do it? Not alter from it, but maybe the verbiage and the scripting I'm giving her, she doesn't feel comfortable with, right?" And so it's like, is it the way that we're asking you to talk about it? Like, because I want them to find their own way, but sometimes they don't know how to do that. They don't understand where the boundaries are, how much can I change this script or whatever that looks like for them. And so it's really digging deep and finding that out. And making sure she understood the why behind why we asked her to do it, because it started to feel a little bit like she understood, but just didn't want to do it. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to really work. So it's like, okay, let me see if that's actually the case. Or maybe she just doesn't understand why we do it like this. Even though we've kind of talked about it, that doesn't mean everybody hears the same things when you're saying it. Doesn't mean everybody learns the same way. And so sometimes you have to be open to approach them to see, how is this person how do I need to talk to this person or train this person so that they get it, because they're not getting it. And so there is a way to do it, but you're never going to know if you don't have that open conversation to find out what they need from you so that they can do the job at the level of expectation you have for them. Most of them can do it. And after a while, if they don't, we don't spend a ton of time on it, right? But that's also how you can weed out the people that are going to be a good fit for your culture who aren't. Because when you have those open conversations and they're willing to work with you and you're willing to work with them, things can get better and grow, and they can grow with your company and be successful. When you have those conversations and you don't get that openness back, after a while, they might not be a good fit for your business. And so I think that helps you understand how to work with your team members in a way to get them to do what you want, because not everybody understands the same way. And I think that's the other part that people forget.
Well, yeah, this reminds me of one of our members that we've been kind of dealing with this on, right? Like she started putting in all of these systems and structures into her business. And what did we do? We got like messages immediate, like the following day, right? Like I told everybody this and nobody did this and everybody's out to get me and nobody wants to follow what I want them to do. And we have to take responsibility first, that we are training and guiding and leading and directing the best that we can. And you cannot do that without looking through the lens of positive intent. You are never going to get there. That's just how I feel. But yeah, you're absolutely, absolutely right. If you were talking to an owner right now, Chandra, and they were thinking, okay, I want to try this. I want to start leading differently, but I know that I am really, really quick to snap when things go wrong. What is maybe just one small shift that you would tell them to start with this week?
Yeah, I think just start thinking it's not necessarily about you. Like they're not necessarily out to get you. And so I think just kind of changing that mindset shift, and then just instead of coming in hot, just ask. Questions are always the best thing. Like ask them like what's going on, or why, why did it go this way, or like kind of the way that you were saying it. Just start asking questions. Like that's really how you get to the root of everything, because they know when they're not doing something the way they're supposed to be doing it, right? There might be a reason why. That's what you need to find out, but you just got to be open and ask. And I think just stop thinking it's about them out to get you, because 90% of the time that's probably not the case. Probably 99% of the time that's not the case. They are just not understanding.
Yeah. I think you also need to think of them as children a little bit, right? Not everything has to be handled immediately. Take that time to pause, like we said. Take that time to pause and really think about it. Unless somebody is in harm's way, you don't have to follow them into the break room, snatch something out of their hand and be like, why'd you do that? Like, really think of how you want to be treated. Like it's that simple. It is that simple. So many times we have so much on our brains. We've got our family life, we've got our kids, we've got our businesses that aren't doing well most of the time. We've got all of our clients, we've got our team members depending on us, and we just have so much going on. That small pause can change absolutely everything. All right, guys, let's wrap up with the listener question. This one came in from Shelly in Ohio, and she asked, I've been thinking about adding retail into my salon, but I am super nervous that it is just going to sit on the shelves. How do I know if it's worth it? And how do I get my team on board? Go for it, Chandra.
I mean, I think retail is really important. I think there's a lot of different ways to go about it. You can have a small stock in your salon, and also, depending on the person you're working with for the company for retail, they could do an online store for you. I think those are two really good ways to start doing it, to not be so fearful. Don't buy into some huge, crazy buy in, no matter what the manufacturer, the distributor tells you. Like, make sure you're staying within a budget, set a budget that's realistic. And then, yeah, you have to train your team and get them excited. You have to get them product knowledge. You have to get them behind whatever product brand you're bringing in. Make sure they do training for you guys. Make sure that they'll help you guys in those areas. And then also make sure that your markup can be 100% to 120%. Because if it's not, it may not be worth it for you to bring it in. So really make sure that you're looking at all those different areas. And I think the biggest thing is to just stay within a budget, no matter what they tell you, like how much free product they're going to give you, or whatever they say. Like, don't put yourself underwater. Just make sure that you're staying in that budget.
You said it perfectly. The only thing that I would think to add is make sure that you have KPIs and benchmarks for your team when it comes to selling that retail, because realistically, it's the only way they're going to buy in and get behind it. They have to benefit from it in some way, shape, or form, right? And having those benchmarks where they can promote and do things is going to be really, of course, you're going to pay them for selling it. I'm not saying that, but the benchmarks are going to be very, very important as you move forward. So here's what we want to leave you guys with today. Choosing positive intent, it doesn't make you soft. It makes you stronger. It really does. It doesn't mean people get to run all over you or ignore your standards. It means that you stop carrying all that extra resentment that makes leadership heavier than it ever has to be. The mistake itself isn't usually what burns you out, right? It's not the mistakes that people are making or the mistakes that you're making. It's the story that you attach to it, because our brains go wild. They run. When you decide that people don't respect you, they're out to get you, they don't care, they don't get you, whatever, that is the part that actually eats you alive inside. I think about stuff like that constantly. I still have to remind myself of this. But when you flip that story, when you choose to believe something better and still hold the line, everything about the way you lead changes. And when you stop assuming the worst in your team, your clients, or even yourself, you're going to get your peace back. You will. You're going to show up calmer. You are going to make clearer, better decisions. You're going to actually start trusting yourself again. And that shift, it doesn't just make you a better leader in the salon, it makes you a better person at home and all the way around. A better partner, a better parent, just a better human. It's what it does. So if you're listening right now and you are tired of carrying all the weight, start here. What we talked about today. Question the story, lead with curiosity, give people the benefit of the doubt without lowering the bar. I promise you, it'll change your life. Chandra, what's the final encouragement you'd give to the owner listening who is ready to stop assuming the worst and start leading through this lens?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you will be completely shocked and surprised at how things around you will change when you start leading this way. I think you will find that your team is going to be easier to deal with and manage. They're going to shoot for goals much better. I think even in your personal life, you're less stressed, you're less snapping at everybody, and everything goes so much better. So I think just start doing it and then get ready to see that positive change like fall around you all over. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Guys, if you're out there and you're listening and you want help putting things like this into practice, building the systems and the leadership habits that actually back this up in your business, that's exactly what we do at the Beauty Biz Agency. Go to www.thebeautybizagency.com to grab our free resources, check out our coaching options, and get the support you need to lead without losing yourself in the process. And if this episode hit home, share it with another owner that needs to hear it. Make sure that you are following the show so you don't miss what's coming next. And please leave us a quick review so more owners can find us. Chandra, how can our listeners find us and keep up with everything we have going on at the Beauty Biz Agency?
Follow us on social media at the Beauty Biz Agency on Facebook and Instagram, or the Beauty Biz Mentors on TikTok. And you can catch us live the first Monday of every month on Facebook and YouTube at 6 p.m. Central Time. We would love to see you there, and we can answer any questions you might have.
All right. That's it for today, friends. You've been listening to The Station, the podcast where salon and spa owners cut through the chaos and lead with clarity, confidence, and purpose. Until next time, protect your energy, lead with positive intent, and don't let the stories that you tell yourself steal your peace. Now go out there, make bank, run the show, and ditch that chair. And as always, keep slaying those business goals with a whole lot of swagger.